Okay. So, hi Vinay, I have got your resume for the mock interview. The format of the mock interview is simple. I am going to ask you a question based on your resume. You have to answer me at the end of the interview. I'm going to tell you that what are the areas you need to improve upon. Answer to the questions whichever you have answered me incorrectly, and what are the areas where you need to learn more. Right. So that would be our agenda. And
Okay.
yeah, so let's get started by having a quick introduction about yourself.
Uh, Hi Mukesh. My name is Vinay. Currently, I'm having 2+ years of IT experience and relevant experience in RPA UiPath, about 2 years of experience. And my role in my organization is initially up to 1.5 years I worked as a developer, and now from past 3 to 4 months I'm working as a support also. Means not
Hmm,
completely support,
hmm,
but a kind of partial support. Like if any incidents comes, that some
hmm.
bit of resolving, not
Okay,
fully loaded, but partial support against.
understood. And in this span of 1.5 or 2 years, right, how many projects you have automated end to end?
I have automated 4 projects. Okay.
Okay. And those four projects are in production now, right? Live, I would
Yes.
consider them as a project. Okay. Now,
Yes.
out of these four projects, Vinay, I want you to talk about any one of the project, okay, which you are comfortable talking about, which you know everything, right? Just talk me about any one of the project. What was the problem statement? What was the automation doing?
Okay. The requirement from the business is to we automate the process, and the process step is like we need to log into an application. That is
Mm-hmm,
a web application.
mm-hmm,
After logging into that application, we need to set a filter.
mm-hmm.
So that filter is already saved by the business, and we need to use that filter.
Okay.
So after using that filter, we'll be getting some certain records.
Mm-hmm.
Means that are called an ASN records, ASN
Okay.
reports.
Okay.
So after that, we need to check if any ASN available, then we can proceed further. If not, then we need to send an exception, business exception mail to
Hmm.
business. So, if any reports are there, means records are there, we can in the application will be having an option to export that all the records.
Hmm.
So after exporting, we are adding that entire all the records to the queue,
Mm-hmm.
and from the queue we are picking each record, and in the main field of that in the transaction item is ASN number.
Hmm.
So we are using that ASN number, and we are searching for that ASN number in the Manhattan application which I told. So
Okay.
we'll get that result. So
Hmm.
after getting that result, we need to check that.
Hmm.
Means means that record which we are applied, and that result which we need to select that record.
Okay.
After that, we need to click on view ASN report. One
Hmm.
option is there on the
Hmm.
application.
Mm-hmm.
So that a invoice type PDF document will be displayed on the screen, and we need to download that ASN report. And from the report, we need to fetch the supplier name.
Hmm.
And
Okay.
the supplier name, while saving that, and that supplier name should be renamed to that PDF file.
Hmm.
Uh, and at last, what we need to do means we need to match all the PDFs, means all the transaction item which will come, all the ASN records we need to match. We need to we need to check for each ASN from transaction item, and we need to download for each ASN.
The
And we
PDFs.
need to rename PDFs. Yes.
Hmm.
We need to rename the PDFs, all the PDFs. And at
Okay.
last, what we'll be doing is we'll be sorting them in an alphabetical wise based on
Okay.
the previous step. We are renaming that file with the supplier name, right?
Hmm.
So that supplier name should be in ascending order.
Hmm.
And at
Understood.
last, we will be merging that all the files.
All the PDFs.
So all the PDFs will be
Hmm.
merging.
Okay.
So at last, what in the output folder should be means that merged file and
Hmm.
all the ASNs which you are downloaded that renamed with supplier name. So
Okay.
all we will be sending to the business
Hmm.
an email.
Understood.
So this is the process.
Got it.
Mm.
Now, this seems to be a good project, right? So, is it built on some kind of framework, dispatcher performer, RE framework?
It built on RE framework, but we are using dispatcher and performer combination, but not separate bots. In the
Okay.
init part, it acts as a dispatcher.
And are you adding the data to the queue?
Yes.
Okay. So, When you say you log into an application, you get the ASN records, right? So, uh, this is a web application, right? How do you get the credentials for this web application?
Uh, from the we'll be using from Orchestrator asset, credential asset we'll be using
Which
from that
activity I used to read the orchestrator assets, specifically the
get
credential?
cred get credential activity we'll be
What is the
using.
output for that?
Username and password will be the
Okay. And what is the frequency of this robot?
it will be running daily, including weekends also.
Okay, so it's
And
running daily. Okay. And when I run it on daily basis, let's say Monday, how many ASN file I download?
okay,
So what is the
uh,
count means approximately 10, 12, 50, 60?
approximately we'll be getting 20 to 30, but on some during that means
Hmm.
holidays time or any events like now consider like Christmas,
Hmm.
the count will be more like up to 100 to 150 like that we can expect.
Okay. So 20 to 30 you are getting, right? Now tell me one thing. What is the transaction item for this process?
Transaction item is that actually we are in the process I explained we are exporting that file, right? We are
Hmm.
reading that file
Mhm.
and we'll be adding by using add queue item activity, we'll be adding that ASN number
Only.
to the ASN number, and in the reference we are adding that filter also, means
Hmm.
filter which we are applying.
So your ASN number is added to the queue, right? So can my queue have duplicate ASN numbers?
No, I am setting it to unique. By
Hmm.
creating the queue item, I am setting the property means
Hmm.
that condition to unique.
Okay. Now you add the data and that completes the dispatcher. And now you are saying that the performer is also in the same robot, right? Now,
Yes.
uh, what is the disadvantage of using the performer and dispatcher in the same robot? What do you think? So ideally, the best practice says that both of them should be separate, right? What do
Mm.
you think is the disadvantage of having both in the same robot?
The one disadvantage is like if the frequency of the ASN reports is increasing
Hmm.
and the business and the available license is are less, and if you want to consume that license in within time,
Hmm.
so the performer only because it is a single robot, right? So
Hmm.
it has to process for everything, so we cannot split that queue items to multiple robots.
Hmm.
This
Let's
is
you
the one I'm
understand that.
thinking.
Yeah. Okay. So
Mm.
now, why did this architecture was made like that? Okay, we need to have the dispatcher and performer in the same robot. Any specific reason for that?
It's not like any specific reason, but the count is less so that
Hmm.
without of and the license is also if we are creating one more robot and that
Hmm.
license also that is an issue.
Okay. Fine. So, right. So you have to download the PDF files, right? So
Uh,
where are you going to store those PDF files?
in the actually for in development server we'll be using local, and when we
Yes.
in the production we'll be using a common shared directory, something which can be accessible to all the robots. So in that folder we'll be creating some subfolders.
Hmm.
That in that folder we that we'll be giving the download path when we are entering the file name.
Okay. So I am your business and let's say after 1 week I say that, hey, I don't want you to use this shared drive. I want you to use the different shared location.
Okay. Then
So,
we can change in the config the path which we are giving.
okay. So in the RE framework, you have used the config, right? So when I read the
Yes.
config in RE framework, what do I get as an output?
That output is that dictionary we will be getting dictionary of string and object.
Okay. And if let's say Vinay is writing this automation, right? Now the config by default is placed in the data folder of RE framework. Correct.
Okay. Yes.
Now I am your business and I says that Vinay, you have to update the path of the shared drive. So you have to
Mm.
go to make the changes in the config file. And since your
Okay.
config file is inside the code, you need to redeploy the solution, right?
Yes.
Are you doing the same? Is your config located
No, no,
inside or yeah?
no, no, no. Actually, config is also located in the shared path which I told. means it is not under the local path. So if the business ask us to do any changes in the config, so we'll be hitting that directory, means shared directory.
Hmm.
In that there is a config subfolder is created,
Hmm.
and that is independent. That is not dependent on, that is not inside the project.
Okay.
So and
Okay.
we that path will be giving in the init all settings YAML.
Hmm.
In the form
Okay.
that
Hmm.
asset we are giving that path.
Understood. So you have gone to the Manhattan application, you downloaded it PDF. Now you have to merge it, right? Which activity in
Mhm.
UiPath are we using to merge the PDFs?
We have an activity, merge PDF activity.
Okay, so you provide all the name and then you get the final output, right? Okay.
Yes.
Now, let's say I'm your business user. Okay, how do I
Mhm.
know the automation is completed or not?
Actually, for each transaction, we'll be in the init part, we'll be creating a setup like that master log file. We'll be creating
Hmm.
by using a build data table.
Mm-hmm.
And at the end of each transaction, in the in the means that catch section of the process XAML,
Uh-huh.
if it is a business exception, it is going and adding that data row to that master log file. And if it is success, and the same is happening for each transaction, and at the end, means
Hmm.
in the end process, we'll be checking the count,
Okay.
means the master log file has any data.
Hmm.
If it is the data is there, then we'll be sending the master log file to the business by an email.
Okay. Understood. Hmm.
Mm.
Okay. So now, this is about the process, right? Let's move to a little bit about your CV. It says that you have an experience in Action Center, DU, PL, SQL, and all, right? Uh,
Mm.
what are the different stages in a document understanding project? The main stages.
And in the document understanding, we are having four main stages.
Mm-hmm.
That is, first one is taxonomy.
Mm-hmm.
And in the taxonomy, we are creating the taxonomy and we are loading the taxonomy. Taxonomy is like the groups we are creating and subgroups, and under that the document type which we want, like invoices or any receipts or something.
Hmm.
And under that we'll be also adding the fields like what we need as output, like
Hmm.
bill number or invoice number, that is creating.
Okay.
And that taxonomy.json file is created, and
Hmm.
that we are loading into the load taxonomy. And next stage is like digitization.
Hmm.
So if the invoice or documents that we are receiving, that is, if it is scanned, we are using with OCR, and we are using Omni page
Hmm.
OCR.
Okay.
And and if it is not scanned, we are going with just read PDF like that. And in the next stage is the classification stage, which
Hmm.
is the link between first stage and second stage.
Okay.
means
Understood.
uh, means link between
Hmm.
the taxonomy and that digitization output. Here
Okay. And
we
what after
will
what?
be
Okay, you just name me the stages, right? What are the stages?
okay. First one is taxonomy and
Huh.
digitization, classification, and extraction, and this validation stage, that is not a mandatory.
Hmm.
We can use or not, and export and train.
Okay. Okay. That's great. How about this SQL and PL SQL, right? So, which activity have you done the database automation, or it just the knowledge of the SQL and PL SQL you have?
I just have some basic knowledge of SQL and PLSQL.
Okay, so you have not done the automation of the
Mm.
database, right?
Mm.
Okay, okay, that's fine. Now, tell me one thing. If I have to give a project to you, right? So let's say I'm starting a project and I have given you something which is called a PDD, right?
Mm.
PDD is
Yes.
a process design definition or process definition document. It is having all the details, right? So, as a developer, what are the next step you do once you receive the PDD?
Once I receive the PDD, I will go through the process,
Mm-hmm,
and if I is not able, if I'm not sure about any process, then I
mm-hmm,
will contact the business person who is respect to who has created the PDD,
mm,
and I will sort out all the issues I'm having with the process, and then I will create the SDD,
mm.
solution design document. And
Okay,
after getting approval from the business that regarding that SDD, then I will start the development.
okay, okay. So you'll start the development then. Okay. Now, I see in a resume you have mentioned something on the automating the virtual environments using the remote runtime, right?
Yes,
Can you talk a
I'm
little
having
bit about
knowledge.
it? Yeah.
It's okay. For that virtual environments, why we are using is like
Mm,
when, for suppose example, Citrix environment or VMware we can take.
mm,
For that, the selector won't work because it will take the image of that
mm,
VDI.
mm.
And the selectors will not work. For such
Okay.
cases, if by using computer vision, we can
Mm,
what it will do means that it will establish a neural network connection with that
mm, mm,
by using that CV screen scope activity, and it will identify the elements as
mm,
how by looking how we can able to identify. In the same way, the neural network will identify the element, which will
mm,
help us to type into or perform that
mm,
actions which we are using
mm.
with a traditional selector like that.
Yeah. Yeah.
It will use. Mm.
Okay. So that is the computer vision automation, right? So now
Mm.
you done any live project with the computer vision automation, or you just know the
Uh,
concept?
I have an idea about that. I just tried some practical things, but not a full project on that. Well, some like some use case also I haven't done, but I
Hmm.
just checked and gone through that activities and how it is working. That I have checked.
Okay. Okay. So in one of your project, which you have mentioned, you says that you have used the RE framework in most of the projects, right? So let's say I have to change RE framework to work with data tables, right? First
Okay.
question is, can
Mm.
I do that?
We can do that.
Okay. And what are the changes which we need to do, right? I don't want the each and minor changes, right? So what would be the major changes which as a developer I would need to do to make sure that my RE framework works with a data table?
The first step we need to do is that the transaction item data type we should change. By default, it is a queue item. We need to change that to data row,
Okay.
and that will show some errors in all the some of that XAMLs, and we need
Hmm,
to means change that data type. And the next step is like we in the get transaction XAML, we can comment out or we can delete. We can ignore
hmm,
that get transaction item activity, and we need to put one condition like that data table that condition we need to put that
mhm,
rows count and some condition will be there. I was not sure exactly, but
hmm,
data table that rows dot count is equal to transaction item
hmm.
transaction number minus one, like that we can do.
Okay.
And in that way we can, and the transaction item will be the data row. So by
Transaction.
uh,
Okay.
mm, data row, by using that data row double quotes, we
Hmm.
can extract the specific exact field of the what we require from the data row, like that we can.
Okay. Understood. So let me ask you a little questions about Orchestrator, right? So let's say this process, whatever this ASN process, right? It's working in production for 1 month, 2 month, 3 months. It was working fine, and suddenly one day you got an error. Okay,
Okay.
error, or let's say you got an exception which says selector not found exception in the production, right?
Mm.
Now the issue comes to you that Vinay, we have got an exception called selector not found. I can see it in the logs, right? What are the next steps you are going to find and fix and redeploy that error, right? What would be a strategy?
First, I will check the logs and I will check the activity, exact activity where it got failed,
Hmm,
and I will download the latest package which is running in the production, and I
hmm,
will download the package and copy that code to the dev server,
hmm.
and I will check for that activity, and I will just validate that selector in the
Hmm.
dev environment.
Okay.
And if any selector changes, UI interface is changed, then I
Hmm,
will update the selector and validate,
hmm.
and then I will republish the code.
Okay. Are we
The
not going to do the testing, UAT, sign
uh,
offs?
UAT UAT actually, in our project we are not doing any UAT if any case of these errors are there. We are just testing, and
Okay.
we will be testing one round of test, and we'll be asking business to, if the results are fine, then we will be deploying the same package in the updated package in the production, like that. We'll get
Hmm.
confirmation from the business.
Okay. So who is deploying those packages in production? You are deploying, or there is a separate team?
No, I have involved in deploying also.
Okay. So you have the access to deploy as well as support, right?
Yes.
Okay. Now, I have one last question for you that is a bit towards the, I would say, your logic building and all, right? So I have an Excel. Okay. In that Excel, I have 100 records. Okay.
Okay.
In it, there is an Excel which is having 100 records. My idea
Mm.
is simple that I want to split that into 10 different Excel sheets. Okay, so first sheet would have 10 records from 1 to 10, second would have 11 to 20, third would have 21 to 30, 31 to 40, 41 to 50, and so on,
Mm.
right? What are the activities we are going to use? So we have an Excel which is having 100 records, not necessarily 100, it can be any number, right? We just have to divide it by 10, 10 each sheet.
10 each sheet. So first, what I will do means like I will create a variable with that number 10, as you are saying 10,
Hmm, hmm,
and I will be using a retry means retry. How I can say that number of retries that
hmm,
there will be an activity. Uh, So
hmm,
I will be putting one condition like how many number of retries like that I will put. And in the I will be using an Excel application scope, and in the read range what I will be doing is like I will be putting first it will start with in the range I will be
hmm.
putting this condition means A1 to 18 like that I will
Okay.
put. And in the next iteration what I will do means in the next iteration 10 to like 20 like that I will put
Hmm.
based on and the retry count into 2 like that I will put. In
Understood.
that way I
So,
will read.
if I have 100 records, you are going to read the Excel 10 times, right? 1 to 10, 11 to 20, right?
Yes.
I have one question, right? So how about I read the complete data at once, read range, right? And then I divide the database, then divide the data table.
Okay.
So instead of getting the range, right? 1 to 10, 11 to 20,
Mm.
I can always divide the data table also, right? That give me first 10 records from the data table, then the next 10, then the next 10, right? So I have two
Yes.
approaches. One, which you told me that where I have an Excel, I'll read the Excel 10 times. The other approach is you read the Excel one and then you do all this calculation inside the UiPath only, right? Which approach do you think would be faster?
The second one will be faster because reading it again and again it will take more time.
Okay, and which one do you think was more recommended, right? Let's say you have both the option, which is one you are going to use.
The one which you told that is better, I am thinking.
Okay, okay, great. Last question, Vinay, from my end. What is the difference between a throw and a rethrow?
Uh, Through we can use for throwing a kind of exception like system or business as per our
Hmm,
means equipment and rethrow that if we want to throw the exception out of the try catch block, we'll be using that rethrow. And
mm,
that rethrow we can
fine.
and the rethrow we can use in the catch block of the try section.
Okay,
Try
okay.
catch.
And I cannot use the throw in the catch block.
Throw we can use in the catch block, and if you are suppose we can use the throw. Let me tell it clear once.
Yeah.
Suppose if you are using the try catch block, and we can put the throw in the suppose we are expecting some kind of exception or something is happened, or we are putting simply throw activity in the try block of the try catch block,
Hmm.
and we are handling it in exception. And if
Okay.
you want to throw this error to the parent try catch block, we will be using that rethrow activity.
Hmm. Okay, understood. Okay, fine. So I am done with my set of questions, Vinay. So before I jump to your feedback, right? How do you think your interview went?
I'm thinking I've answered most of the questions correctly. That's what I'm thinking.
Yeah, okay, that's correct, right? So let's come to your feedback, right? So your interview was good. So let me tell you the feedback, right? So if this was a real interview, right, I would have definitely recommended for you the next round, right? So you have answered me all the questions correctly, most all the questions, right? Not most of all the questions. So I think there are some feedback which I wanted to give. Is one is on your project explanation, right?
Okay.
I see you
Mm,
struggling a little bit about explaining the project, but that does not mean that it was not okay. I was able to understand your project, but I think all you need is to just to practice to explain the project in a better way, right?
sure. Sure.
Because
Mm,
you wanted to give a lot of details in the first go only, right? But I think if you just practice is that when the interviewer is asking me explain your project, these are the details and this is how I am going to answer it, right? So probably you can start with what exactly is the problem statement, right? What is the automation doing? What is the benefit? And then talk a little bit about RE framework, dispatcher performance and all those bits, right? The next
mm,
feedback is on your resume, right? I see that you have only put your summary experience and this, right? What
mm,
you should do is you should have one section which talks about your skills.
okay.
Okay, a separate section which talk about the skills or the tools which you know in RPA, right? Such as document understanding, UiPath, Orchestrator, UI automation. A section which shows that these are the skill set which Vinay is capable of, right? The next thing
Yes.
which is missing is that is you have not added any of the certification or anything, right? So I understand that you might not have done the paid one, but you might have done the academy certification, right? From UiPath
Actually,
Academy.
there's two certification I have done, and now I'm preparing for that paid one.
Yes. So the certification which you might have done from Academy, right? You can include those as well, right? Uh, Associate certification, advanced developer certification, document understanding, action center, right? You can add those
Mm,
certification, and once you've done that one, add that also on top of your resume, right?
okay. Mm,
And in your experience, right? So I see you have first started with one company, RPA developer, and then you have mentioned the project developed, right? And all of these is like one after one another, all coming in one point like rate. So I think there should be some kind of segregation. It should be readable, right? So the idea here is it should be readable. Readable as means, so if there you have says project handle, at least highlight the name of the project, right? So it's all coming in a single format. So I see that you have one, two, three, four projects, but when I see the resume, I felt that okay, you have only one project. When I actually read it, then I see that you have done five projects, right? So maybe just highlight the projects and make it more readable. Take care of the
okay.
spacings in the resume, right? The spacing between the headings and the subheadings is exactly the same. The font format of the heading subheading is exactly the same, right? So just do a little bit differentiation, right? I think that would make your CV more readable. Apart from that, your CV is good, your interview is good, right? You have given me most of the answers correctly, including the config. I'll put it in the share drive, disadvantages of having it in the same robot, right? And for a 2 years
Mm,
experience, this is what I think an interviewer will expect from you.